Raise your hand if you would like to know the secret to life. I'd raise 2 hands, but I might fall over. So before I actually give you the secret to life, we need to actually talk about Isaac, the story and the life of Isaac in the first reading. A lot of times when we hear the story of Isaac, where Abraham is going to sacrifice his son, a lot of times we have this idea that Isaac is this small, helpless little boy. And that's just not true. In Hebrew, the word for boy in this particular story is young man. So Isaac first isn't a boy, he's a young man. And continuing the story, it says that Abraham took the wood of the sacrifice and he placed it upon Isaac's shoulders, and Isaac went up the mountain, climbed the mountain with the wood on his back. He's not just a young man, he's a strong young man. No boy is carrying up the amount of wood up a mountain. This is a strong young man. Now, Abraham, when Isaac was born, was 100 years old. So maybe he's like, 115, 120. And it says that Abraham bound his son and placed him on the wood of the sacrifice. Isaac easily could have just tripped his dad down the mountain and been like, peace out, Dad, I am not doing that. I mean, Isaac is strong. He's a strong young man. His dad's like 120 years old. There's no way that Abraham is overpowering Isaac, which means this: Isaac chose freely to lay down his life. This was not some helpless boy that was forced to be sacrificed. This was a strong young man who freely chose to give his life into his father's hands. Isaac is easily an extreme beautiful image of Jesus, right? Jesus himself, right? Who carries the very wood of the cross up the mountain that he is to be sacrificed. He who freely chooses to lay down his life for us. Isaac spared, Jesus not. But Isaac is not just an image, but he's also an example for us. A lot of times when we can think about the life of Jesus, the calling of being able to lay down our lives and to live as Jesus lived, it can seem extremely difficult because it can be like, well, that's Jesus. He's God. I'm not. Isaac's not God. And he freely chose to lay down his life. So the question is, how? How did Abraham, a human with his own difficulties, this strong young man, how did he choose to freely lay down his life? Isaac knew, without a doubt, that God loved him, that God was good, and that he could trust him. He knew that his dad was good, that his dad knew what he was doing. I mean, again, you have to recognize if Isaac knew his dad loved him, but he thought his dad was a little crazy. There is no way he's letting his dad bind his hands and his body and be sacrificed. Isaac completely had this confidence in not just the love of God and the goodness of who God is, he had the confidence in his dad of his love and that he knew what he was doing. And this, my brothers and sisters, is the secret. The secret to life is a confidence, confidently believing in God's love for you and that he's good. Because so much of the reality of sin is a lack of trust in God's love and God's goodness. It's a lack of belief that God will provide, and so I will want to take control of my own life. I will want to run to other things, to addictions, to people, to situations, to fill the void of my heart because I don't believe that God can actually fulfill and touch this area. To have a deep belief in God's love and his providential plan for your life, when suffering and difficulty, when confusion, when darkness happens, you will remain faithful. Because you know who your Father is. You know the goodness that in that moment he's drawing out of that. And you won't run because your heart is rooted in the goodness and love of your Father. You won't have to need to figure it all out. You don't need to have all the answers. My Father has the answer. Fine with me. I can rest. So much, my brothers and sisters, is when we can increase and grow in the confidence of God's love for us and the belief that he's good, then we can lay down our life. We can surrender to the Lord. Now, I could just stand up here and just tell you to just trust in God's love. Just believe. But it really wouldn't be helpful. It's like someone who's got a broken arm being like, stop being in pain. Doesn't really work. Right? It wouldn't be helpful for me just to tell you that God loves you and to just trust in his love. I need to go one step further and I need to teach you how you can grow in the confidence in God's love for you and that he's good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a principle of growing in God's love, and I'm going to give you 3 concrete ways in which you can apply this principle to your life. Would you like to know what the principle is? Yes or no? Really? I don't believe you. I'll ask you one more time. If I don't believe you, maybe I'm just going to walk away and you'll never know. Do you guys want to know the principle? Yes or no? Yes! All right, I won't leave. I'll tell you. The principle of being able to grow confidently in God's love for you and that he's good is to meditate on the passion. And when I say meditate, I mean engage. Not like, oh, that was hard for Jesus. No. I mean being able to actively engage that every single thing that happened to Jesus, every blow, every scourge, every spit, everything that happened to Jesus happened with you on his mind. That you were the reason he continued to move forward. You see, the passion has to become personal in your life. There was this saint in the 14th century. Her name was Saint Bridget of Sweden. And she prayed many times asking Jesus, how many blows did you receive during your passion? She wanted to know the number. How many times? How many blows did you receive? And after patiently waiting a long time and asking many times, Jesus appeared. And Jesus said this to Bridget: I received 5,480 blows upon my body. To think that Jesus had you in mind 5,480 times. The passion, my brothers and sisters, has to become personal. When you can experience the intensity of God's love for you, it is then that the belief in his love will increase. And so here are 3 ways that you can apply the principle to make the passion personal to you. First, watch the movie The Passion. But don't just watch it as if that was a really hard thing and that was hard for Jesus. Engage. Like at the moment of the scourging, right, when the soldiers are not just whipping Jesus, but like the flesh is literally being ripped off his skin and blood is being poured out, and his mom is watching her son being ripped apart, and he could have got up. He's God. He could have said, I'm done, but no, in that moment, he had you on his mind. He thought of you. He thought of your salvation. He thought of your forgiveness. He thought of the freedom that he would win for you personally. Jesus, as he's being scourged, you were the reason. And then he continued. Second, the stations of the cross. Whether at home or you can come here every Friday, we have the stations. And again, it's actively engaging. To not just pass through the stations, but to actively engage and experience what he went through for you. Like station 10. Jesus is scourged. His whole body is this open wound, bleeding, and they put his clothes back on. And as they put his clothes back on, you have to understand that that blood begins to dry up. So when he's on Calvary and they're about to strip him of his garments, all that blood is dried up. And they didn't just take off his clothes, they ripped his clothes off, which means that every single wound was reopened and new blood pouring out. And he stood there, naked, bleeding, embarrassed. Then it was for you. He had you in mind. It wasn't a passive just idea. Third, if you have a rosary, take it out. Right now, if you have a rosary, take it out. If you have a cross around your neck or a crucifix around your neck, just hold it. And if you have the rosary right now, I just want you to put your hands just really quickly on the crucifix. Oh, wait. If you have one around your neck, hold it. If you don't, that's fine. What I want you to do is I want you to take your 2 fingers and I want you to put it around one of the nails on his hands. And I want you to push into it. And I want you to feel the nail. I want you to recognize right now in this moment that nail was for you. That Jesus allowed his hand to be broken, the nerves to be torn, and that nail to be driven that you are now feeling with you in mind. Everything for you. My brothers and sisters, It was a personal love that he gave his life for you. He personally died for you. He personally has a plan for your life. He's uniquely in love with you. And when you can begin to believe deeper and deeper in his love for you, my brothers and sisters, by being able to intensely experience his love through the passion. That's the principle. We need to make the passion personal. Because it was for him. And when you experience his personal love for you, when you begin to recognize more and more that every blow, 5,480 blows, when you hold the crucifix, when you watch the passion, when you go through the stations of the cross and you let your heart and your mind and your body feel, and you actively engage and you recognize more and more that that was for you, that he had your name on his heart, that you were the reason why he continued to go, that he didn't give up because of love for you, that when you experience that intense love, then in that moment, the love of God will increase within your heart. Your conviction and belief in his love and how good he is, and that he would stop at nothing to take care of you. In that moment, then that will increase. And then all that we have in our lives that we take the place of God begins to fade away. Because we begin to recognize that his love is enough. That his love is enough. And we can surrender. Like Isaac. Isaac knew he could trust the Lord. Isaac knew that the Lord loved him, that his father loved him. And so he could literally lay down his life into the hands of his father. So too, when you grow in that intensity of God's love for you, so too will you be able to lay down your life, to trust in God and the Father's goodness as he first laid down his life personally for you. Amen.